exercising the functions of the Deputy Vice Chancellor Student Affairs, University Technology Mara, Yang Berbahagia Associate Professor Dr. Hartini Saripan, Dean of Faculty of Law, University Technology Mara, Yang Berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Muhammad Ibrahim Abu Hassan, Dean of Faculty of Dentistry, University Technology Mara, Yang Berbahagia Profesor In Senior Technologist Dr. Ahmad Asari Sulaiman, Dean of Student Affairs, College of Engineering Studies, University Technology Mara, distinguished panelists, Dr. Hazli Zakaria, Clinical Psychiatrist and Psychotherapist, Ms. Nurul Huda Mansur, Legal Practitioner in Medical Law, Ms. Maria Fuad, Founder of Mental Health Application, which is Plus Vibes Application, lecturers, staffs, and all students. I am Najwa Nisa, dental students of UITM, and on behalf of the committee, I would like to welcome you to today's webinar on societal conformity, navigating the ethics and the law of mental health. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you taking time off your busy schedules to join us today. For your information, today's Life Mental Wellbeing Forum webinar is a collaboration from Faculty of Law through LCLC UITM, together with the Faculty of Dentistry through TENSA UITM, and the College of Engineering through SMF FKE, University Technology Mara. We hope you will enjoy and benefit from today's talk. Moving on, we have a tentative for today. I would like to welcome Muhammad Rezwan bin Saniman from College of Engineering Studies to lead in prior recitation. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Arrahmanirrahim. Maliki yaumiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma innaka khallaqul azim, innaka samiul alim, innaka ghafurur rahim, innaka rabbil arsyil azim, innakal baru jawadul karim, Allahumma ya karim ya rahim. In the name of Allah, most loving, most powerful, indeed, we gather on this day to express gratitude for your invaluable bounties. Make us your servant who always grateful, whether it is small favor, moreover a bountiful favor to us. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim. Indeed, you all know in that we are gathered here to gain your knowledge, to level up our potential as your servant, whom you are pleased with. So bless our gathering, grant us whether your knowledge may be. Shine our hearts with your light and guidance. Hopefully, with it we can easily accept and appreciate and practice it. Ya Dal Jalali wal Ikram, grant us the health of the fitness of mind, the peace of mind, the strength of the spirit. Hopefully with it, we will be able to face the challenges, be competitive, and able to rise the dignity of ourselves, our family, society, and our country. Allahumma inni a'udzubika minal barasil wal jununi wal judami wa min syai'in asqami. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Amin. Amin ya rabbal alamin.
Thank you, Rezwan, on the prayer you recited just now. Ladies and gentlemen, to begin this program, we are pleased to have the deans of 3 faculties to deliver their opening remarks. Firstly, please welcome Yang Berbahagia, Associate Professor Dr. Hartini Saripan, Dean of Faculty of Law, University Technology Mara. Over to you, Dr. Hartini.
So much, Nurul Najwa, our MC today from Faculty Pergigian. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good afternoon. First of all, I would like to welcome Yang Berbahagia Professor Technologies Dr. Muhammad Nazib Surahman, our Deputy Vice Chancellor, to our program today. And I would like to also welcome Yang Berbahagia Professor Datuk Ibrahim, Dean of Dental Faculty, dan bersama kita juga adalah Prof. Dr. Asari, Dekan Hal Ehwal Pelajar yang mewakili Prof. Suhaimi daripada College Kejuruteraan. And I would also like to welcome all 3 illustrious speakers, Dr. Hazli, Ms. Nurul Huda Mansur, as well as Ms. Madiha. or Miss Maddie. Thank you so much for your willingness to accept our invitation to speak to us today on a very timely and relevant topic. And I think thank you so much for your time. And of course, last but not least, I would like to also welcome all students from all three faculties, in fact, more than three faculties, because engineering college itself is comprising of a few faculties. So welcome to all students from all these faculties, which I believe that students from other faculties are also invited. And we have also invited lecturers from all faculties. So welcome everybody on board. And I think today's topic is very relevant because the issue of mental health cannot be taken very lightly. And I am very grateful and thankful that in collaboration with the dental faculty as well as the College of Engineering, we are able to organize this meaningful program and talk. And I really hope that today's talk would increase awareness amongst all of us on the importance of this issue. And because this issue is something that is rampant nowadays, not just among public, but also among our students. So I think our commitment is very much needed. And for this, we are very thankful to have our beloved Deputy Vice Chancellor today. Thank you so much, Prof. Nazib. Thank you for your time and your willingness to officiate our program. So once again, I would like to congratulate the organizer. The director of the program is Alia. Congratulations, Alia, from the law faculty, as well as the committee members from SALC and all committee members from dental faculty, as well as the College of Engineering. Congratulations on this, I would say, impactful collaborative effort. So congratulations, everyone. And thank you to all speakers. Thank you to all deans. And more importantly, thank you to our Deputy Vice Chancellor. So Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And over to you, Nurul.
Thank you for the wonderful speech, Associate Professor Dr. Hartini. Now, I would like to welcome Yang Berbahagia, Professor Datuk Dr. Muhammad Ibrahim Abu Hassan, Dean of Faculty of Dentistry, UiTM, to deliver his opening remarks. Please take the stage, Professor Datuk.
Thank you very much, our MC this afternoon, Ms. Najwa. Yang Berbahagia, Professor Technologist Dr. Nazib, our Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Innovation, and also acting during the function of Student Affairs. Yang Berbahagia, Associate Professor Dr. Hartini Saripan, the Dean of Law. Yang Berbahagia, Professor Dr. Ahmad Ashari Sulaiman, Dean of Student Affairs, the College of Engineering. I would say that the director of the program, Ms. Alia Isabel, and esteemed speakers, the three speakers today, first one, of course, Dr. Hazli Zakaria, Ms. Mediha, and Ms. Nurul Huda, and also all the students that are in this program today. Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon. First and foremost, I'd like to thank for the organizing committee to invite me to say a few words to this program. And this program, I think, is the first time we have a collaboration between our three faculties, two faculties and one college, to organize what is very, this so-called, quite as the Dean, Dr. Hani said, it's very useful, impactful program, especially during COVID-19. Of course, mental health is very important to make sure that our students, and also not just students, also staff who are in this seminar, webinar today, will be able to know and understand how to keep our mental health good, especially to suspend the current stressful environment with this COVID-19. So I'd like to congratulate the organizing committee for coming out with this program, and of course with this collaboration with, and I certainly hope that with collaboration of these three faculties, we hope that many more program collaboration between our students can be carried out to link to make a good link between to set up a good linkage between our students in the three faculties and also UITM. So again, I'd like to congratulate all the programs, the committee for coming out with this program, and also I'd like to thank all the speakers for taking their time to come and share their experience with our staff and also students this afternoon. Again, thank you to Professor Nazib, who was also able to spend some time with us this afternoon to appreciate this program. Again, we hope that this program will have a great impact and be useful to all our participants this afternoon. And that's all. With that, I'd like to thank you again, and we hope that we have a fruitful program. Thank you very much.
Thank you Yang Berbahagia Professor Datuk Dr. Muhammad Ibrahim Abu Hassan for your opening remarks. Moving on, please welcome Yang Berbahagia Professor in Senior Technologies Dr. Ahmad Asari Sulaiman, Dean of Student Affairs, College of Engineering Studies, to deliver his opening remarks. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi washabihi ajmain. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Thank you very much MC Nurul Najwa. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Honorable Professor Technologist Dr. Muhammad Nazib Suratman, Deputy Vice Chancellor Research and Innovation, exercising the functions of Deputy Vice Chancellor Student Affairs, UITM, Associate Professor Dr. Hartini Saripan, Dean Faculty of Law, Professor Datuk Dr. Muhammad Ibrahim Abu Hassan, Dean's Faculty of Dentistry, UITM, and our honorable speakers, Dr. Hazli Zakaria, Ms. Nuruhuda Mansur, Ms. Madiha Fuad, all the club advisors, the Director of Programs, which is Ms. Alia, and then programs committees members and all audience. So Alhamdulillah, I have this opportunity to represent our PNC, Penolong Naib Chancellor College, which is Engineering College. Okay. So praise to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, we can gather in these platforms to advance the collaborations programs of College of Engineering, Faculty of Law, and Faculty of Dentistry UITM. Thank you to all students from Secretariat Mahasiswa Faculty, Schools of Electrical Engineering, Society Club Law Faculty, and Faculty of Law and Dental Associations for organizing this event successfully. So we know that nowadays mental health has become a critical issue among us, especially students. Due to this pandemic, okay, they need to face new learning environments and change their lifestyles due to the pandemics. Okay, therefore, it's essential to equip themselves all together, actually not students, but our staff also, with the knowledge to face these challenges. So please give full attention to the distinguished panels when they are sharing their knowledge related to the mental health, which is a very useful knowledge for today. Okay, so I hope these programs can benefit all students to have a healthy lifestyle. I end my thoughts today with wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Nurul.
Thank you for the amazing speech, Prof. Now, let us invite Yang Berbahagia Professor Technologist Dr. Muhammad Nazib Suratman, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Innovation, exercising the functions of the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Student Affairs, University Technology Mara, to deliver his speech and officiate our program for today. Please welcome.
Thank you, Nur Shahira, for the kind introduction. And Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon, everyone. Yang Berusaha Associate Professor Dr. Hartini Saripan, the Dean, Faculty of Law, UiTM. It's good to see you again, Dr. Hartini. Congratulations on this event, very active. And Yang Berbahagia Professor Datuk Dr. Muhammad Ibrahim Abu Hassan, Dean, Faculty of Dentistry, UiTM. And Yang Berbahagia Professor Technologist Dr. Asari Sulaiman, the Dean of Student Affairs, College of Engineering, UiTM. The distinguished panelists, respected lecturers, and participating students. At the outset, let me welcome all the panelists and everyone to the Mental Health Webinar 2021, with the theme of Societal Conformity, Navigating the Ethics and Law of the Mental Health. This program is jointly organized by the Students Community Law Club, SCLC, the Faculty of Law, and the Dental Student Association, DENSA, Faculty of Dentistry, as well as the Secretariat Mahasiswa Fakulti Kejuruteraan Elektrik, SMFKE, College of Engineering, UiTM. It is a great pleasure for me to be here today to open this event, which provides a valuable opportunity to highlight the positive steps that can be taken to promote mental health and well-being. I'm also delighted to officially launch the UiTM Law Peer Support Team. It is a team consisting of lecturers and students who have undergone the Training of Trainer, TOT, for Student Emotional and Mind Development Module organized by the Faculty of Law with collaboration with the Center of Career and Counseling, UiTM. I believe that having a peer student support in place not only helps decrease day-to-day stress, but it can also provide peers and students with immediate assistance, providing additional support, allowing for ventilations and sharing to take place, and works in tandem with the services offered by the mental health professionals. And I'm told that this peer support team is one of UiTM Law's initiatives and the first in UiTM regarding mental health awareness. Congratulations for this event and this effort. Hence, I would like to congratulate the Faculty of Law, the Faculty of Dentistry, and the College of Engineering for successfully organizing this program. And I hope this event will be an annual event, which I believe serves as an effective avenue to raise awareness about the mental health continuum, reduce stigma associated with the mental illness, and promoting help-seeking behaviors and emotional well-being practices and prevent suicide through education and outreach events. This event also aligns with UiTM's aspirations as a higher learning institution that is constantly committed to ensuring the students and staff with mental illness and the people around them have support services to help them, because through early detection, we can ensure that mental illness does not have to be a life sentence. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the chosen theme is indeed a fitting one, designed to understand the fact that the mental health issues affect people from all walks of life, men and women. Currently, reasons such as quarantine, family problems, and learning difficulties are often associated with mental health problems such as anxiety and depression among students. Discriminations and stigma of seeking assistance and a lack of knowledge of available support can aggravate this problem among students and staff. Thus, it is hoped that this event will change the way we view mental illness. It is no longer seen as something that does not affect us, but rather as something that affects our students, friends, family, neighbors, and communities. I'm sure you will agree that mental well-being is vitally important in raising awareness and the continuing need to make mental health a priority for all people. On the road to this achievement, many individuals and organizations have played a role in contributing to the inclusions of mental health in the SDG Sustainable Development Goals. It is one of which it is event, and I'm proud of this event. And congratulations again to the organizer, to the Faculty of Law, to the Faculty of Dentistry, and College of Engineering. Before I conclude, let me again to express sincere gratitude and heartiest appreciation to the Faculty of Law, Faculty of Dentistry, and College of Engineering, and the organizing committee for the commitment and dedication to ensuring the success of this event. Before I end, let me again thank everyone for your presence today. In that note, in the name of Allah, with the phrase of Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, it gives me a great pleasure to officiate the Mental Health Webinar 2021, Societal Conformity, Navigating the Ethics and the Law of Mental Health. Wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you, Yang Berbahagia Professor Technologist Dr. Muhammad Nazib Suratman for the enlightening and motivating speech. Your insights were exactly what we needed to hear. Ladies and gentlemen, in light of our event for today, I am delighted to introduce you to the recent appointment and establishment of the UiTM Law Peer Support Team, which comprises of respected lecturers and dedicated students for the well-being of the students in the faculty. We will now continue the program with a video montage. Enjoy.
Sometimes life can become so cold and lonely. Why it always feels sorrow and sadness and uncertainty that makes me anxious, and why everything around me moves so fast that it left me behind. It is chaos inside me. The pain is invisible. I choose not to let it out all. A never-ending battle with my inner self and continuous struggle. Pretending to be okay when I'm not really okay inside. How I wish to just disappear and leave everything behind. There were times when socializing takes too much energy from me, causing mental exhaustion, and that is why I simply ghosted anyone that tried to reach me.
Ida, are you okay? I know you're not. You can share anything with me. I'm here for you. I understand what you are going through. You are not alone in this. Don't invalidate your feelings, Ida.
Thank you, team, for the video montage. Such inspiring and stimulating message addressing what most of us are facing right now. There are indeed no ways of knowing whether a person is facing a mental health problem, but it is always important to respond sensitively to someone who seems troubled. The world is a better place with kindness. Now, before we proceed with the main event, I would like to welcome all the respected guests to switch on the camera for a photography session. Once again, thank you Yang Berbahagia Professor Technologist Dr. Muhammad Nazib Suratman and all the respected deans for taking the time off from your busy schedules. We truly appreciate your presence. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of our opening ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we will now move to the most awaited moment of our program for today. I would like to welcome Nurdiana Kamila, student from Faculty of Law, alias moderator for today's webinar. Please welcome.
Thank you, Najwa, for the introduction just now. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention because this forum is about to begin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day to everyone. I am Diana from the Faculty of Law, and I will be your moderator for today. Thank you for spending your time with us today for the forum entitled Societal Conformity, Navigating the Ethics and the Law of Mental Health, which we will share some knowledge on the importance of raising awareness, dealing this issue together, and supporting others towards a healthy mind. So in essence, the aim of this forum is to take a step ahead in destigmatize mental illness within our society. We should not take things lightly, even if mental illness happen, but it should not be suffered in silence. Therefore, we will be focusing on what are the important points that we need to know with regards to mental health in perspective of ethics, legal, and social from professionals and experts. Before that, allow us to introduce the three distinguished panelists we have with us for today. Firstly, we have Dr. Hazli Zakaria. Dr. Hazli is a psychiatrist and psychotherapist who received his medical degree from the University of Adelaide, Australia, and postgraduate psychiatric training from National University Malaysia. He is also a founder and director for Alaminda Specialist Clinic and currently the president of Malaysia Psychiatric Association since 2018. Dr. Hazli is a well-known and a personality in mental health and advocacy. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Hazli, and welcome to our webinar. Next, introducing our second panelist, Ms. Nurul Huda Mansor. For your information, Ms. Nurul Huda has received education in UITM for LLB Honours, and she was admitted as an advocate and solicitor of the High Court of Malaya in 2008 and became a partner at Messrs. Sean Gilmore & Co. in 2017. She is also a part of the firm's medical legal practice group and regularly appears in court representing doctors and hospitals in medical malpractice claims. Ms. Nurul Huda also acts for medical practitioners in disciplinary proceedings before the Malaysian Medical Council and the Malaysian Dental Council. She is currently the Assistant Secretary Legal of the Medico Legal Society of Malaysia and also the member of International Bar Association and a trainer in the Malaysian Bar Council's Advocacy Training course. Thank you for being with us today and welcome. I bid to you, Ms. Nurul Huda. Lastly, I would like to introduce our last panelist for today, Ms. Madiha Fuad, who also known as Madi. For your information, she had earned a degree in journalism in UITM, an MBA with a high achievement scholarship, and currently pursuing PhD in business with Vice Chancellor Scholarship. Then she began her career as a business journalist for 3 years at the Age newspaper, which connected her to many business leaders and also inspired her to start her own business. So based on her experiences struggling with mental health issues, she developed a mental health app known as Plus Vibes, which was to improve accessibility and allow people to seek assistance anonymously. Welcome, Ms. Mehdi, and thank you for being with us today. For your information, for this forum session, we'll have 3 rounds and each of the panelists will have 7 minutes to answer question in round 1 and 5 to 7 minutes for each question in round 2. And the third session will be the Q&A session. So, ladies and gentlemen, for your information, any question later can be asked in the comment sections of YouTube Live. Without further ado, allow me to start the ball rolling with the first question to Dr. Hazli. Dr. Hazli, can a psychiatric practitioners actually share information on their patient's background and details of session with other parties, for example, the employer, university, or parents, without their consent? Over to you, Dr. Hazli.
Thank you, Ms. Diana. Thank you for the question. And the answer is so easy. No. Any other question? Of course. Yeah, it's a very simple question. Yeah. And then the answer is also simple, but it's not as simple as that. Why? Because it's a matter of perception. How sure are we when we share, it will be protected? Because we know that. Everybody knows that we should get help when we have some psychological issues. But how many of us really believe that we'll be supported once we open up? How many of us want to believe that everybody will keep their confidentiality? For example, you can ask how many staff of the hospital, including doctors, nurses, everybody who work in the hospital, which is supposed to keep the private information, the sensitive information of their patients, right? Is one of the pillar or the thing that they promise to their clients. But how many of them want to come to see psychiatrists in their respective hospital? Because how many of us really practice what we are supposed to do? How many of us follow SOP regarding the pandemic, COVID? Yeah, even the one who come up with the guidelines, what's supposed to do not follow that. That could be the reason. The perception, whatever law, whatever regulation, not many people practice that. And then there is no kind of responsible party who ensure that the regulation will be followed. Once there is a clear how it should be done, most of us will follow that. You see, how many of us last time really checked the distance from the mama shop before they start to smoke? When there is a real officer will come and summon the person. So the message is, it's good if we have the act, the regulation, the policy. But more important is for us to ensure that it will be implemented, will be followed. So that is the idea. We need to have a champion, someone who say, yes, I share and my confidentiality are protected, and then make people want to do that more. And then that would be the culture that we want to have. Unfortunately, we are the culture, kalau tak ada orang mai check, malas lah aku nak buat. There is no integrity. So there are a lot more that we need to do besides just act, regulation and policy. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Hazli, for the informative sharing just now. So that was a very important details we shall take note. So I want to ask Ms. Nurul Huda, in your opinion, why mental health and the law matters? Over to you, Ms. Nurul Huda.
Hi, thank you, Diana. Can I just check, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay. Thank you for this. Thanks, Dr. Hazli, for starting. So I think the most important thing, why is mental health law so important? I personally feel that we do need laws to protect those that are vulnerable, those that are not able to speak for themselves and protect themselves. So the laws basically need to speak for the unspoken.
All right, Mr. Huda. Okay, so in relation to the previous question, what are mental health rights in Malaysia? Do the law actually safeguard the welfare of the mentally disordered?
Okay, so basically in this country, the only law that deals with mental health per se is the Mental Health Act. Is a Mental Health Act 2001 and Mental Health Regulations 2010. Okay, and this came into operation in 2010. But in my view, this act it basically focus more on the legal implications of having the lack of mental capacity. So it talks about things like when can you apply for a court order to institutionalize those with mental health disorders, and how do you manage their estate and things like that. So it also talks about how you can detain an individual who has mental capacity issues, and having things like forced hospitalization. Okay, and but in terms of rights per se, I don't think that the Act sufficiently safeguards the welfare. So the Act does talk about that they cannot be ill-treated, and you cannot be you cannot neglect a mentally disordered person, but it's in the context of those that are institutionalized. Okay, so it's not something that we're talking about the public in general and those that are outside, they're not institutionalized. So I personally feel that this act does not sufficiently safeguard the welfare of the mentally disordered that are not institutionalized.
All right, thank you, Mr. Huda. What my take is on the legal aspect.
Can I add a bit on that?
Yes, sure.
Okay. I think this is thank you very much for bringing it out, because you know that Mental Health Act our country is one of the countries who have Mental Health Act. Surprisingly, some of the country doesn't have. And then before this Mental Health 2001, we rely on the Mental Health Ordinance 1952. So it's kind of a big progress when it first implemented in 2012, I think. And then the problem is we are not aware. Most of us do not really aware the existence of mental health until the pandemic. We should thank COVID for making us more aware about mental health, including Mental Health Act. And the good thing is, Ministry of Health and few other ministries look into to review this act, which is to me is very good. And then, can you imagine that Mental Health Act? True enough, they are talking about to protect involuntary admission to the facilities, just try to bring up more rights, to protect the right, but there are still more need to be done, especially in the form of transition, the care from institution to the community. The concept of deinstitutionalization, that's what this mental health try to do, to make it more human in terms of the service to the mental health act. But how much have changed? Not much, right? In the Mental Health Act, there are also the provisions in terms of the private services. They are provided. Before that is all the services in the public sector. Through the mental health, is allowed the psychiatric clinic, psychiatric homes, community mental health community center, and more important, the private hospital can be established in the private sector. But why it did not happen? Because the Mental Health Act needs to be regulated by the Mental Health Regulation 2012. Surprise, surprise, mental health regulation for healthcare, there are two regulations. One is apply for public services, another one is apply for private services. It means, right, it's in order for you to set up the private facilities for mental health, the regulation is much more stricter than public facilities. In other words, you go to the public services, you get the lower standard. They make it much more difficult for you to set up the private facilities, just to ensure that the private do not take much money. But surprise, surprise again, the MAID is so unprofitable for any establishment want to do in private sector. But at the same time, if you look here, it's very unfair, meaning that for those who go and get the services in public, they got a lower standard. That is such a, to me, wow, that is very bad. You know that, interesting enough also, there is one facilities is already approved to be a public facilities, but when you want to convert into the public facilities, we did not pass the approval. There is the concept of double standard that we're not really aware. That could be something that we need to be reviewed in order for us to improve the provision of services to mental health patients and their family. So I don't like to start with this kind of pessimistic view, but the idea is there are so many things that we can do. That is the positive I want to share.
Yes, I agree with you, Dr. Hazli. All right, so can I ask Ms. Maddie? Okay, I have one question. So digital mental health services are increasingly endorsed by government and health professionals as a low-cost, accessible alternative or adjunct face-to-face therapy. So Ms. Maddie, could you share with us about your Plus Vibes app and what is actually the main factor that inspired you to create the Plus Vibes app? Over to you, Ms. Maddie.
Thank you, Diana. Assalamualaikum, everybody. So I think, first of all, thank you for inviting me for this forum. Mental health is a topic that is very close to my heart, and I'll share with you why. So how I developed Plus Vibes mobile app. Well, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 24 years old. So being an entrepreneur itself, what does that entail? It entails operating costs. It's a very demanding job. It's not your typical 9-to-5 jobs whereby you're given responsibilities, these things. Being an entrepreneur requires you to ensure you're able to meet operating costs. And during that time, I was also pursuing my MBA, moved on to pursuing my PhD. So you can imagine the amount of stress I was in. But it was something I chose to do. It was what I wanted to challenge myself in. But during my last semester of my PhD, unfortunately, I suffered a nerve damage, which is my long thoracic nerve, of which it limited my ability to move my right arm. And I think it really triggered me that mental health became really important, physical health became really important. And I think a lot of people don't realize it, that taking care of your physical health, taking care of your mental health is very important. So you only realize it when you reach that bad chapter of your life. Because most people won't realize the importance of mental health until you face a certain situation or something that really impacts your personality, your behavior, your ability to perform tasks. So during that time, being an introvert, being a person, and I think a lot of people have struggles to share their problems with other people because you always want to believe that you're strong. You always want you don't want to share your weaknesses with other people. And I think that's the part where you tend to struggle silently. So mental health is considered as a silent pandemic because people don't really share. They're afraid to share. That's why we developed this Plus Vibes app, because Plus Vibes in itself is about sharing positive vibes. So what we wanted to do was create a safe platform where people could talk to someone anonymously. They could search for motivational articles, videos, all anonymously. So we believe that, I think in Malaysia, the difficulty, we wanted to cater to the issue of not being able to reach out for help, right? Why? Because embarrassed, right? Okay, you don't have anybody to talk to, you don't have a support system. So what can you do? you can talk to someone on a mobile app. We have qualified listeners, we have therapists, we have counselors who are volunteers on the app who want to contribute to the society and listen to these to problems. And we call them vibers, so they're basically sharing their vibes with the users. And alhamdulillah, so far, since we launched in October last year, 5,000 users have given amazing feedback. I mean, there's a rating after every single chat. Out of 5-star rating, you have to rate the conversation, right? Was it good? Because we want to continuously improve the app and really make it useful to the public. Our rating is actually 4.7 out of 5. So it just shows from that itself that people do want to reach out for help, but it's just that they don't feel comfortable, maybe face to face. They don't feel comfortable about sharing with their friends, their family, because they don't want people to know that they're struggling. So I think that's the main reason for me to develop Plus Vibes. I mean, being someone who has difficulty in sharing my own problems, I think I needed someone to share anonymously with.
Confidential requirement.
Sorry, again.
What about your the privacy of your app? Does it comply with the privacy and confidential requirements?
Okay, so in terms of privacy and confidential, what we do is that we don't ask users for personal information, IC, phone number. We only ask an email address, of which, to verify that it's actually a person, not a robot. But then again, you can create a new email address that's not related to your personal email address. The second thing is that we have a 24-hour chat system whereby the conversations are not backed up. We don't have access to the conversations. It's only stored on the phone. So in that way, once the user closes the application, there's no storage of that messages or conversations. So that's how we create a safe space for users to share their information.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Maddie, for the question just now. Okay, again, a reminder to anyone who has questions regarding the program, feel free to ask in the YouTube comment sections for me to ask to our great panels today. And I would like to remind the participant to fill in the feedback form provided in the YouTube comment section at the end of the program. Now, we are in the second round of the forum session. So let us back to Dr. Hazli. Dr. Hazli, what is societal conformity and how does the pressure to follow a traditional path will affect our mental health?
We cannot deny the fact that we are social species. Yeah. If we live alone in the jungle, no one have anxiety. Because the fact that we have the anxiety symptoms because we have to face the lecturer, the friends that we perceive as snobbish, and we not have to follow buat bodoh untuk nak dapat jodoh. And then all the kind of these are the guidelines and the regulation the society has done for us. Even though we don't want to follow that, unfortunately, it's already internalized in our system, in our body. Diana, you stay in the hostel. Your parents doesn't know whether you study or not. But how come you feel bad, you feel guilty when you do not spend your time study enough? Because it's already your parents already inside you. So that is the concept of internalization, right? That's the reason, if we are in the environment, we are very strict, very high expectation, and make the person to be perfectionist. That could be the component of genetic, but the component of environment also. We realize a lot more to do with the nature than the nature when it comes to the psychological problems, psychological issues. Yang dok cakap saka tu bukan saka. It's a modeling. This is the way we observe our parents, our brother, our sibling, or the society some kind of do that. But what could be the reason? The reason is for us to live in harmony, for us to avoid conflict. That's the reason we have the policy, the regulation. But unfortunately, when it becomes too strict, and then to serve the purpose of certain group, and it become discriminating in the nature of that rules and regulation. But the problem is they need someone, or they need a strong force to change that. But we can see how the society in Malaysian society also is slowly change. The younger generation is very different from the older one. The knowledge, the mental health literacy among the younger generation is good, is much better than their parents. But whether that one lead to the more people come to seek help, yes, but not as much, because when they start to confide to their parents, what would be the normal response? The parent will say, "Well, you all need so weak," and then they will start the story. Ingat tak waktu when I was young, I kena cycle. You all now ambil Grab saja pergi sekolah. And then all this, compared to how we used to be. Some of the young generation, they don't have the means to seek help yet, but their knowledge is improved. And then they have to follow what the culture has set up for them to do in order to be, successful, to live in peace, and most important, tak kacau dia punya parents. So sometimes we have to see this is a way of controlling, but there are also a good thing also. I can't really say that the culture is not good. For example, the extended support, the support that we got from the extended family, which we started to lose it. That is something that we need to go back and look. How can we get back this kind of culture? How family members, the extended family support each other in bring up one human being, for example. So when we are talking about why we need to confirm, there is a good benefit of that, but if too much and too rigid is going to lead to the negative outcome. So what it comes to what? A balance in and then we need to know the reason why that culture was formed in the first place, and then we open enough to adapt to what could be the beneficial of the new culture or modified culture that we want to go. So I think that is my answer. We need to be more open, but at the same time cautious to ensure the balance in the new modified culture that we want to go into.
All right, so I totally agree with you, Dr. Hazli. Okay, so in this case, Ms. Nurul Huda, is it legal to allow people to have autonomy over their lives, to enable individual self-determination and the ability to decide what they want out of their life and how they want to live their life for experiencing overall positive well-being and to escape from pressure of societal conformity?
Okay, thanks, Diana. Okay, I'm going to answer this question with giving an example of a case. Okay, so the answer is if we look, yes, okay. In fact, it's illegal not to let people have personal autonomy. Okay, so in the context of what I do, medical law, when there are medical negligence claims filed and all that. Okay, so this question of patient autonomy arises in almost every case. Okay, so I want to share this case. It relates to a medical negligence case, not specifically a mental health issue, a case, but the principle that I want to share is very important. Okay, so this case is the Australian case of Rogers and Whittaker. Okay, it went up to the High Court of Australia. So what happened was there was this lady called Mrs. Whittaker. So she was nearly blind in her right eye since age 9. Okay, so in 1983, at the age 47, after routine checkup, she was referred to this doctor, an eye doctor, okay, for possible surgery. Okay, so she is 47 years old. So she has one good eye, one bad eye. Okay, so the doctor, the eye doctor, Dr. Rogers, told her that, look, I can operate on your right eye, on your bad eye, okay, to remove some tissues and possibly restore significant sight to that eye, okay, and as well as to prevent glaucoma. So basically, good eye, bad eye, doctor says, I can do surgery on your bad eye to restore vision on this bad eye, okay. So Mrs. Whitaker agreed, okay, so she underwent the procedure. But what happened after the surgery was there was no improvement in her right eye, in her bad eye. And what happened instead was she developed this very rare complication called sympathetic ophthalmia, which happens in 1 in 14,000 patients, which left her good eye to lose vision, so became blind. Okay, so from having one good eye, one bad eye, she now didn't improve her sight in the bad eye, and her good eye became blind. Okay, so she sued the doctor on the ground that, look, you did not advise me of the risk of me losing sight in my good eye. So this matter went to court. The doctor called experts, and his expert says, look, no doctor will advise of this risk of sympathetic ophthalmia. It only happens in 1 in 14,000 cases. So remote, no one actually advises patients of this risk. So the court deliberated on this matter and said that, look, okay, so they took a new approach. Okay, it was always based on the traditional approach of doctors know best. Okay, so now in looking at this case, they said, like, look, we are now moving into a new era. Okay, so things now need to be looked at from a patient's perspective. Okay, so even if you think this risk is so remote, 1 in 14,000, but because it is a material risk, important risk for this patient, you need to advise this patient of that risk. Okay, because it is important to this patient, and the court decided that a patient is entitled to make his or her own decision about his or her own life. Okay, and the patient is, the advice that a doctor has to give is viewed from the patient's perspective. So this case entirely advocates patient autonomy. So following this decision, a lot of courts adopted the same approach. So in Malaysia, this case has been adopted in a lot of cases as well. One of the landmark cases that we have is a case of Hu Piona, decided in 2007, went up all the way to federal court. So the position in Malaysia is that patient autonomy is essential. Doctors need to advise of risk, and patients have a right to decide what he or she wants to do with her own body. Okay, that's all, Diana.
All right, thank you, Huda. So, which brings me to this, still in social conformity. So, Ms. Madi, do you believe that societal conformity has led to a growing difficulty for individuals to express their problems in terms of stigmatization?
Thank you, Diana. Well, of course, I agree with what Dr. Hazli said. It's about how you're being nurtured, right? So it's about whether you come from a background that really allows you to express yourself. But in general, society conformity has restricted our ability and has forced us to act in a way that society deems fit. So it's basically like when people tell you, don't air your dirty laundry outside, right? In public. So it's another one where you're not allowed to express yourself. So when you bottle yourself up, what happens? It's like a Coca bottle. Keep shaking it, and one day you will explode. It's because there will inevitably be pressure from left, right, and anywhere in terms of demanding jobs, expectations of your job and of your own self. And about relationship issues, I'm speaking about these three things because from the data that we've collected, these three things are the major reasons why people use +5s. It's because expectations in terms of themselves. They're comparing their own life to other people. Why did my friend get a job in COVID during this pandemic, but I didn't get a job? Or why is this person's life like this? Why can't I achieve the same thing? Those kind of factors will influence your mental health and its ability to reach out for a support system. That's when you really struggle. Another thing is about demanding jobs or expectations or relationship issues. Who do you reach out to? If you can't reach out to your family, if you can't reach out to your friends, who do you really reach out to? I think the society restricts the ability for people to express themselves. And when people do express themselves, people tend to look down or shame on them. You see a lot of celebrities starting to express themselves, but there have been a lot of backlashes for those celebrities. Like people will be like, hey, why are you talking about this in public? You shouldn't be sharing these kind of things in public. So then it makes other people feel like, hey, wait a minute, so that means I'm not supposed to share my problems too? So because of that, it creates a whole perception that you're not supposed to share your problems. And that causes the inability for people, especially the younger generation, who are very outspoken in their nature, to limit themselves. And that will really damage, the future workforce. If the younger generation aren't able to express themselves, aren't able to seek help. So it really depends on how you're nurtured, like Dr. Hazli said.
Yes, I agree with that. Sometimes social and cultural are the factors that lead people to feel ashamed to seek help and also express themselves, right? So, beside this, Ms. Maddie, do you think concerns with privacy and confidentiality have also made it difficult to break through the stigma or uncertainty of seeking help?
Of course, I truly believe this. That's why +5 is anonymous, because I feel like people don't reach out for help because they're shy, because they're embarrassed, because you don't want to really admit to yourself that I'm struggling, right? And of course, it's not, people tend to think like it's shameful for you to admit that you're struggling, but actually it's not. It's just that in social media, you always see everybody performing so well. You see everybody so happy. So you seem to think if you have a problem, you're the only one having a problem. But that is not the case. Everyone goes through their ups and down chapters, right? It's just that nobody shares it. So that's why we want to create a platform whereby it's anonymous. You can just share and nobody will judge you based on your experience, who you are, your race, or anything. I think that's something that is really needed in Malaysia, the ability for you to share your problems without being judged. And also, I'd like to congratulate UiTM Peer Support because you're providing that platform for people to reach out for help.
All right, thank you, Ms. Maddie, for the insightful sharing just now. Okay, so let's back to Dr. Hazli. All right, Dr. Hazli, some people with mental illness say that suicide is not selfish, but it is a final symptom. So with regard to this, how to respond to this ethical dilemma?
Okay, so before I respond to that question, I just want to add what Maddie said. I totally agree with her. It's not easy for them to share what really happened, not in public, even when they come to see me, when they want to talk about the private matter in the family, they want takut buka aib. And then there are so many cases like that. In fact, they are being physically abused, but still don't want to talk about it, afraid of buka aib. And then I consulted many ustad about that. Then all ustad said, itu bukan buka aib if you talk to the person who can help you. If you describe what happened, it's not like you act exaggerated what really happened. So not every time I have to tell them, ini bukan buka aib, ini bukan buka aib, ini bukan buka aib. So that is how the societal conformity can lead to more harm than good. Okay, including suicide also, because suicide is considered as like spiritual weakness. Suicide is orang yang tak ada iman saja yang akan committed suicide. It's wrong because suicide can be a symptoms of mental illness. But when we're talking about mental illness, we need to give a specific name to that, because mental illness is so many. And then that make us confused which one we are talking about. We have a severe mental illness. We have not a non-severe mental illness. Even the severe mental illness, for example, schizophrenia, they also have the mild phase or the mild symptoms of that. So, kepada student, dentistry, law, and who stay in the College of Engineering, next time, jangan cakap mental illness. Cubalah cari ilmu sikit. Which mental illness we are talking about? Is this a depression, anxiety? Which anxiety disorder we are talking about? Panic disorder, generalized anxiety disorder. Tapi tak naklah semua nanti bukan semua nak jadi psychology student or psychiatrist. But the idea is, it's important for us to increase the level of mental health literacy in the country. And then, if we have that information, the question like whether the suicide is a selfish act, whether the suicidal idea is just the imagination, won't be asked in the forum anymore. Because of the level of mental health literacy in the country, not very high, very low indeed. There are studies to confirm that. So there are still a lot of uncertainties. Because of that, the stigma is still high, the discrimination happen rampantly. So all of us need to improve our knowledge about it. Surprisingly, also, the level of mental health literacy does not correlate with the level of education and the level of IQ also. Means that even though you are a professor, it doesn't mean your mental health literacy high. The study also showed that in the family who has so many successful siblings, the level of mental health literacy is not that high also. In fact, they cannot understand why one of their siblings cannot be as successful as the rest of the siblings. You know, that is kind of sad, right? So suicide is one of the symptoms of many disorders, especially major depressive disorder, which is clinical depression. That is when you say the final symptoms, not the final symptom, it means that when someone has suicidal idea, they already can be considered a severe form of depression. And suicidal idea, there is a term, they call it suicidal behavior, which is a spectrum. Someone can have the idea, the thoughts, and then the act, the attempt. So the attempt is at the high, at the extreme of suicidal behavior. So many reasons what make the person eventually committed suicide. But the good thing is there are many things that we can do to prevent that from happening. So that is even more important for us to improve our knowledge, get the information, and more important, how to be there to prevent that from happening. And all of us can do that. Surprisingly, we thought that we do not know how to do it. There is a simple thing that we can do, how to do that. How to do that? I wait until the end because I don't want people to go too early. Wait until the end. I will tell you what is the simple thing that we can do that could help prevent that from happening.
All right. So, and also, Dr. Hazli, we have heard many cases of mental illness among university students, including those ended up with suicide. So, do you think mental health screening should be mandatory at the initial university admission stage?
Wow, very interesting question. Is that make it mandatory during at the initial university admission? Mandatory for us to know that what for? We want to accept them, or if we know they already have this suicidal idea, we want to reject them. Please make sure the reason for us to know the status of this person before they are admitted into the organization, to the university. If we do that, we want to know their mental status, the psychological fitness, before we admit or not admit. That is a form of discrimination, Nadira. So Diana, sorry, Nadira, but Diana. So again, make sure we know the reason. In universities in UK, England, they did that. You know why? Because they want to provide the better services. If they know the students who being accepted into the university will get extra assistance. I have a patient who have substance use disorder, addicted to heroin. The University of Manchester still accepted it. And then in fact, they said that, please get yourself treated first, yeah? We will keep the post for you, yeah? And then when you come here, you will have this kind of services. So see how important for us to do that, provided we are clear why we do that. I was invited to come to the roundtable discussion by the certain faculty to know should we do this kind of screening to ensure that they be admitted or not. They want to exclude. Is so wrong. The third thing that I want to say is, if the screening was done, you know, have you done any screening test, Diana? You know that how we can manipulate that. We can not answer the truth in order for us to get the lowest score. Most of the students in law faculty, dentistry, engineering, they know very well how just to manipulate the score, just to enter into the university. So we lost the purpose if we don't have a good platform, the confidentiality of that, and make them want to trust us and be honest with the answer. Otherwise, tak payahlah, semua pandai menipu.
All right, so generally, so we need to remember that actually suicidal idea is a severe form of depression. So the question now is to Ms. Nurul Huda. All right, Ms. Nurul Huda, the illness of depression causes suicide typically. And in 2020, almost 500,000 Malaysians depressed and nearly 500 suicide attempted last year. So nonetheless, Section 309 of the Penal Code criminalized those who commit suicide. So, based on this statement, in your opinion, should this section be repealed or amended to decriminalize suicide, as this misjudged group needs to be helped but not be punished?
Okay, thanks, Diana. Okay, now, so for those who are not familiar with the Penal Code, so Section 309 states that whoever attempts to commit suicide or does anything towards the commission of that offence shall be punished with imprisonment for a term that does not that extends to 1 year, and or fine, or both. Okay, so a little background. So our penal code is in pari materia with the Indian Penal Code, and it's taken from English laws. And we're talking about laws from the 19th century. So where at that time in England, suicide was seen as an immoral thing, an offense against God and the king. So you imagine that was the time when these laws were created. Okay, so from that time, our penal code still has this this section, and personally, from personal view, I do not think that we should criminalize suicide, and because suicide should be seen as a cry for help rather than to be treated as a crime. So out of 192 countries worldwide, only 25 countries, including Malaysia, have laws punishing attempted suicide. Okay, so most countries have already, most countries that had this law. Okay, so in the first place, not all countries have laws punishing attempted suicide. So those who had these laws, most of them have repealed their criminal penal code. So Malaysia hasn't, and if we look at our neighbors, Thailand and Indonesia, they don't criminalize suicide. Singapore, only recently, last year actually, as of 1st of January, they started decriminalizing suicide. So I know that this has been an ongoing thing that a lot of organizations are fighting for. Okay, so it's not like, nobody is fighting for this. So a lot of bodies are actually urging the government to repeal this section. But unfortunately, nothing has been done so far. But hopefully, we can follow suit like our neighbors and Singapore as well.
All right. So based on
for that part, thank you, Nurul, for mentioning about that. Actually, Malaysian Psychiatric Association and Ministry of Health already proposed to review this. Remember that when the YB Hanayo mentioned in the Parliament about this, so now actually the proposal in the AG office. So they went to so I think that's a good news, right?
Yes, that's good. That's good. Thank you for that update, Dr. Hazli.
All right. So, Ms. Nurul, based on the following statement just now, are there any protections provided under the law for individuals who attempt to commit suicide for being charged under criminal law?
Okay, so the short answer to this is no. There's no protection from being charged. Okay, so what happens if the AG wants, but you can raise defenses after being charged. So you still have to go through the motion, and there are defenses available, unsoundness of mind and things like that. But it does not prevent you from being charged.
All right, so thank you so much, Ms. Nurul. All right, with regard to this matter, Ms. Mehdi, in your experience, what is the best way to reach out and support those who are suffering from depression and also attempting suicide?
Okay, so I think the root of depression and those who attempt suicide is mainly because of lack of support. So imagine if you have abundant support from family, friends, loved ones, you wouldn't face depression. You wouldn't be struggling alone. You would have someone who actually cares about you, who actually comforts you. And that means the world of a difference to an individual. So those who really suffer from depression and attempted suicide, it's because they feel lonely. It's because they feel like nobody really cares if they commit suicide. I think in 2019, there was a data that showed that 7,500 students aged between 15 to 29 attempted suicide. So why is that? Is it because that they couldn't share their problems to their friends or family? Is it because nobody really understood what they were going through? So really, what is the reason for that? Another data was that the total population in terms of students, 6.9% of them attempted suicide, with only 50% disclosing to the university that they have mental health issues. Most of them don't want to reveal that information, also because will the university actually help them? They're afraid of being discriminated. Okay, this student, you got to be careful. She has suicidal tendency or she's depressed. So you don't want that kind of discrimination when you're entering a university, right? So in terms of what you can actually do, Plus Vibes was developed based on research reports. So what we did was we studied ways that people really wanted to be reached out for help. One was they wanted someone to listen to them, right? So it's just sharing out their problems. Like I said, the Coca-Cola bottle, if you're keeping it closed, it will explode. So you have to leave it open. You have to share your problems. You have to talk to someone who cares, or talk to someone anonymously, or talk to a counselor, seek a therapist. But the issue is that people don't reach out for help because they think it would involve monetary finances, right? And some people with mental health issues don't really have that much access to financial aid for mental health. Other than that, number two, it's to share activities in terms of relaxation activities, webinars, seminars, educating yourself. These two things are very important. Having someone to listen to and participating in breathing exercises, anxiety relief techniques, being aware of what you can do when you're struggling. So when you don't have that kind of education, when you don't know what to do, that's what leads you into a further cave of dark anxiety. You don't know who to reach out to. I guess those are mainly the two basic areas that if you're struggling, that's what you should look out for.
All right, thank you, Smithy. I feel like installing the apps later. Right, so we know that surrounding people plays a major role in mental health issue, right? So okay, so be back to Dr. Hazli. Media shape moral and ethical judgments, noting that rational judgment can be more effective at eliciting conformity than emotional ones.
Yeah. Now, when we're talking about the social media, again, the balance. There are good things that the social media brought us, and then also the challenges. Yeah. And now we're talking about the social conformity, and we have to be aware also the cancel culture that start to be more and more now. Yeah. So that's also as a result of the social media. And then when we're talking about the social media, how good the social media in controlling themselves. We know that when we're talking about the traditional media, they have the ethic, they have to, for us, that they have to, the code that they need to follow. Yeah, do we have that for the social media? And then now people believe more on the expert, or they believe more from when someone said, especially from the influencer. So that is need to be mindful about that as well. Now I think that is the reason why the younger generation they are much more vulnerable, because they are being exposed to many information, and then they need a lot of filter to dispel or to decline absorbing the confusing or not factual information, rather than have been shared. And then we use to, now the more people share the information doesn't mean that the informations are valid, and then it's even more difficult for us to do that. So I think again it comes back to there is a need to be the rights of individual, and then the responsibility that we need to take. For example, now everyone think that happiness is our right. When we are not happy, we demand it. So why I cannot be happy? Without we realize, happiness is not our right. It's our privilege. If you're happy, there's a bonus. Enjoy lah. If you are not happy, don't demand it. What is our right? Our right is to be at peace. Tenang, tak ada anxiety, and then not in pain. We are okay. Okay, yang kita kata okay. That is what our right. But the problem is we are not very honest when someone asks, how are you? How do you feel? Even though we are not okay, just had an argument with your boyfriend, Diana. When someone asks, how are you today, Diana? I'm okay. Yeah, see, we are not be truthful to ourselves. We are fake all the time. Yeah, and then we ask. That's the reason when someone asks you, how do you feel? So we always fighting to know which one carries the truth. But sometimes both of us are wrong.
All right, so we know that let us educate everyone to be more ethical in using social media. So, in addition to this, Ms. Nurul Huda, can a person with mental health illness take action against a person who misjudges or discriminates against them on the ground of violations of human rights?
Short answer to this. We don't have, unfortunately, we don't have specific laws addressing rights or discrimination of those with mental health illnesses. We do have a Disabilities Act that suggests that reasonable accommodation to ensure that people with certain disabilities have a quality of life. Okay, but that's something a bit more general. You're talking about physical disabilities, about providing them with that accommodation. But in terms of discrimination, we do not have anything. I know that some countries like the US, UK, Australia, they have some sort of anti-discrimination laws that protects the rights of individuals with mental health conditions. But unfortunately, it's something that we do not have here.
All right. So, in your opinion, what should we do to be with our loved ones while they are navigating their struggles, not steering them or pushing them?
Okay, so I think in terms of how to manage the situation, I think both actually we do have enough laws and ethical guidelines for medical professionals, for psychiatrists, for doctors. They are governed under the Malaysian Medical Council, MMC. So MMC, they have a speciality. Okay, so it talks about how it is a very important duty that personal information is not disclosed. And there is, they have given 3 exceptions to when confidential information can be disclosed. Okay, so these so this example is first if it's required by law. So you have things like there are certain acts. So for example, like in our situation now, COVID. So if someone is tested positive for COVID, there are certain laws under the Prevention and Control of Infectious Diseases Act that says that you have to notify the authorities and things like that. So that is one, if it's required by law. Second, of course, if the patient consents, then you can disclose the information. And third, if it's justified in the public interest, is a very, very narrow window. So except for these 3 grounds, doctors are duty bound to ensure that there is no confidentiality issues. They cannot just, simply share information about you. And I'd like to share that the MMC does take complaints relating to confidentiality quite seriously. So just I'll share some cases where MMC has taken action. So in 2017, there was this doctor who posted in his clinic's Facebook page a picture of a patient and then edited it. So it was something like a before and after photo, and it was posted without the patient's consent. Okay, so there was a complaint, and the MMC conducted an inquiry and then found the doctor guilty of the charges of not preserving patient confidentiality. And the doctor was ordered a suspension of 2 years. Okay, so this is something very serious. So it's something that, it will actually affect your livelihood, a suspension sentence. So there was another case where this patient, this doctor basically disclosed personal information to the patient's employer. Okay, it was an insurance company without the patient's consent. Okay, so the doctor was also found guilty of abusing this privilege.
Not reveal the information without getting your permission first, your authority first. If you are above 18, if below, susah sikit because the legal age. Yeah, but even that 16, sometimes they still there is some provision of law to allow you to make decision without the guardians. Yeah. So, but the doctors have the right to break the confidentiality when your there is a risk for you to harm yourself and harm others. Because the case of Tarasov, yang dia need to reveal to the victim of the being murdered because of the doctors did not warn the victim. So, but even when want to break the confidentiality, the doctor needs to get to inform you that they need to break the confidentiality. So see how we take so seriously. Dalam arti kata lain, if you want to buka aib, we cannot tell your parents, it's against the confidentiality. Because if you are 18, you can tell anything. Your parents don't have the right to tell them, except when the court asks us to reveal, when the lawyer asks us to do, or when your risk at stake. So there are something that you guys need to remember. So don't afraid to share and to confide to the right person, to the right people who can help you.
All right, so actually that's not easy for a doctor to break the confidentiality, right, Dr. Hazli?
The doctor shouldn't break the confidentiality.
Shouldn't. Okay. All right. So thank you. Then thank you, Dr. Hazli and Ms. Nur Huda, for enlightening us on the legal issue. So I'll bring the next question to Ms. Maddie. In your view, is our social media behavior a window into our mental health?
Well, of course, first of all, I just want to agree with Ms. Huda and Dr. Hazli that you shouldn't be afraid to share your opinion because there are laws that protect you against that, right? Okay, in terms of social media, well, media is not to say fake, but you know that people will only share what the moments that they are happy. Not many will really share their struggles. So there was a research that actually found that individuals who use social media more than 3 hours a day, and this research was done in Malaysia, are at higher risk of developing mental health problems. So what does that mean? It basically means that you're affecting your own mental health because you start comparing your capabilities to other people. You assume that everyone is doing well. You assume that everyone is performing well, that they have a purpose, they have a good job, they have a perfect relationship, but you don't really know if that's the truth behind it, right? Where there was a 16-year-old Malaysian girl who committed suicide prior to initiating a poll whether she should commit suicide or not, right? 69% of her friends suggested that she should commit suicide, and she did. She ended up jumping off. So do you see how social media really affects the young generation? Because it lets society dictate your happiness. It lets society dictate whether you're being loved, your actions, what you should do. And that's where, like Dr. Hazli mentioned, that there's no filter in terms of what younger generation are able to access. You assume that everyone, what people say, okay, you don't deserve to live. You don't have these skills. You're not good at this. And then it tends to play on your mental health. So I do believe that social media is a window to your mental health in terms of it will really affect you. But what people social media isn't necessarily how they really live in real life.
I agree with you, Ms. Maddie, because personally, I think that I actually when it comes to social media, I need to filter what I need to post, what I need to share with my followers. All right. So let's back to Dr. Hazli. All right. So Dr. Hazli, stigma and discrimination on people with mental health issue can worsen their problems and making it harder to recover. And unfortunately, some people like parents, lecturers, friends, and also employers do not understand what these people are going through. So these judgmental people try to solve mental health challenges by giving their opinions or telling them your condition isn't real and something like it's all in your head, or be positive, you can manage it, or something like, oh, I also have stress and panic attacks and I can manage it well. Why can't you? So regarding to this matter, Dr. Hazli, is mental health is actually real, and is mental illness is an illness, and can this illness be curable and treatable, and how?
The simple, this is a complicated question in the sense that it needs comprehensive answer, but it can be answered simply. Yes, mental illness is real. It's an illness, it's a disease, it's a biopsychosocial causes, but it's real. Once it's an illness, is treatable, can recover, yes. But again, that's important for us to mention which one we're talking about. Yeah, so certain condition takes longer to recover, but most of us can recover. So I don't like the words cure. Can we cure diabetes? Can we cure hypertension? Can we cure stupidity? We can't, right? But we can manage them. Yeah, so the idea is about the same. It's an illness. One is an illness. Yes, there is a treatment and the evidence-based treatment. And then we know how to manage the person. The problem is most of the one who have the condition, they came at the very late. You know, that's like cancer also. When you came at the stage 4, the chance for you to survive is much lower. So the idea is how can we detect early? How can we do all the programs so that we can screen and then help them manage earlier so that we prevent the complication? So even better, if we can prevent that, make them from become at risk to develop the first episode. And then more important also, in Malaysia, there is a very limited strategies to help them fully recover from the condition that they have. The rehabilitation is a very limited. That's what the Mental Health Act 2001 prescribed or suggested, recommend all the rehabilitation program, but they are not being implemented. So let's everyone voice out and push for us to fulfill whatever the recommendation in the Mental Health Act. If we do that, that is a big progress. So yes, most of the people, again, the generation gap, but not just that, because they do not want to find the information to understand better. But without we surprise, without we realize, most of the time the parents, the parents, they are resistant or to accept, because what? They're afraid they will be the one get the blame. A lot of parents, when I ask them to come accompany their child for the session, some of them afraid because they're afraid that they're going to be scolded by the doctors because they think they could contribute. But most of the time, we afraid that people will perceive us as a failure to be a parent, to be a lecturer, to be someone who's supposed to do that. So sometimes they are resistant. It's not because they do not really believe, but they're afraid that they will get the blame. So if we are able to see that, that's good. Sometimes another aspect is the grief of the parents, because they have the high hope the children are going to be someone who's successful, who do not have all this condition, and then suddenly all their hopes is broken. So the grief also can be one of the reasons. Remember, the first stage of grief is denial. So they don't want to help. It's not because they don't believe, but they try to protect themselves again. So to me, the important for us to understand what make the parents, the lecturer, the employer do not understand. Because maybe they also have issues themselves. And then we have to admit also, the one who have the condition, as Mehdi mentioned, they are so afraid to share. And we have to realize, the symptoms of depression, for example, is also make them don't want to share, because the negative thought, that they think that they are burdened, and then the symptoms of withdrawing themselves from the family members, because they isolate themselves. That is the symptoms also because of the decrease in activities. Without we realize, the symptoms of depression or the anxiety itself make the person not able to reach out. So if we understand this clearly, instead of blaming, instead of finding fault, we try to understand from everybody, from both parties, so that we can understand. I want to share this one example just happened last week and this week. Last week, this is a regular patient of mine, age 21 years old. And then the mother is very supportive, came every time to the session. And then one of the issue that the patient said that mom is always want to give advice. Even before she finished sharing, the mom already interrupt and say something to some kind of solution. To mom, that is what mom is all about, to helping, to protecting the daughter. And then I asked the mom, can you try not to do that? And then what happened, this week, the mom came back and then said, Bob, I just realized it's so difficult for me not to interrupt. I have to bite my tongue and my lip. Literally, I have to bite my tongue so that I can stop from giving the advice, giving the solution. And then finally, I managed to do that. You know what happened after that? The daughter said, what happened after that, Diana? The daughter said, Mom, thank you for listening. The daughter cried and hugged the mom. You know what happened? The mom said it was the different kind of hug. And the mom feels so connected for the first time with the daughter. And the daughter told me that she feels so light, feels so relief after the hug. So the skill that we need to do is not bite our tongue or our lips, to pause and let the person share, to listen. So can we do that? Of course we can do that. Everyone can do that. So, so what we need to do, our hand, put here. So that's the skill that we need to do. Kalau tak boleh sini, ketuk kepala. Okay, so that is...
All right, Dr. Hazli. So, still in this issue, in your opinion, how for us to respond these people who do not understand mental health issue instead of being judgmental and problem-solving experts? So, can we say something like, just because you don't understand, it doesn't mean it isn't so?
So I think it's education, creating awareness. We need more champion. We need more people who went through, recovered, and say, hey, I used to have all of that. You know, we want from every aspect of life. We want the athlete, we want the corporate, we want politician, we want Makcik Kia, Pakcik Johan, we want the cleaners, we want everyone to share their experience and the success story, their journey of recovery, because everyone's could be affected. So the only thing that does not discriminate is the mental illness itself. And meaning that everyone has the risk to have mental illness. So I'm kind of excited and surprised also. So this program, there are 3 different, 2 faculty and 1 college organized this: dentistry, engineering, law, which doesn't make sense to me. Hey, how could these 3 group of people who are so different and then manage to come up with this kind of program? Oh, this is good, man. This is what we're supposed to do, because mental illness is everyone's business. So it's everybody, you know. But I suspect mesti ada couple from dentistry ke dengan law ke apa semua. Otherwise, who are the culprit ni? Berapa couple ada ni you all ni? So it doesn't make sense. Someone from the left brain, right brain apa semua ni. But all that left brain, right brain itu is not just marketing strategies lah. The idea is, I'm so happy to see that how everyone should work together to deal with, to help the people who need our help the most. You know what? One of the patients said this to me, made me feel so sad. He said that, you know, doc, it's very difficult to get help when you are mentally not well, mentally ill. In fact, she said this, you need to be mentally strong to get help when you are mentally. So sad, kan? But no need to be sad, because this kind of platform see the young people and then can see that like Nurul from a different profession, and then maybe because we need to do this more often. We need to do this together because they really need us. Thank you.
Solely based on the medical condition. So they look at things like whether he is undergoing treatment, compliance to treatment and follow-up, whether it's a physical or cognitive impairment, whether there are remission of symptoms with treatment, so insight to condition, and whether what are the skills that would affect that. So, for example, is this doctor a surgeon? Does he need his hands, motor skills, and all that, or is this person a radiologist? So it will probably be viewed differently. So they look into each case according to the circumstances of the facts. So after this thorough investigation, the committee will then decide whether this doctor is fit to practice. And if this doctor is found to be impaired, they will notify the MMC. So the MMC then will need to decide, so what do we do with this practitioner? So they can make various orders. They can suspend the doctor from practicing. They can remove the doctor's name from the register to make him stop practicing. If it's very severe, they can restrict or impose conditions on this doctor's practice, or they can make other recommendations as they think fit. They can also say that, look, doctor, we probably need you to undergo formal treatment, and we are referring you to a relevant specialist to treat your condition. So it is a case-by-case basis. I can't say, when is the stage. This whole process takes place and assessment will be done.
All right. So in relation to this, do you think that students in healthcare areas, for example, the medicine, dentistry, and etc., that who diagnosed with mental illness should be advised to change course into a non-health program, which doesn't involve risking others' life?
Okay, so this is a very, a very personal question. I think it's a very a decision that one needs to make for himself. But what I'd like to say is this: personally, I don't think any mental illness outright prevents you from practicing in healthcare areas. Okay, so mental illnesses itself is so wide. There are many types. There are permanent illnesses, temporary illnesses, and I believe with the advancement of medicine, most of them can be treated. So, to say that, oh, don't take medicine because you have mental issues, I don't think that's right. Even the MMC recognizes that doctors can have mental issues, and that is why they have set up this fitness to practice committee. And as I mentioned earlier, doctors who have mental issues are not automatically removed from the register, so they can still practice. Assessment will be done on a case-by-case basis. So my answer is no, don't change courses. I don't think mental illness is a barrier for anyone to achieve anything you want in life. That's all I have, Diana.
Well,
Thank you. All right.
Thank you,
Sure,
Nurul.
sure.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to hear from you. Wow, that's really true. We should not let the illness stop or prohibit the person from doing what they want to do. But again, it doesn't mean that we're going to allow just without any monitoring or anything like that. Yeah, because remember, one of the treatment for a patient who have mental illness is find them a job. Supported employment is an evidence-based treatment for mental illness. But more important, as Nurul Huda said, is which mental illness we are talking about. They are taking medication or not. So the individual. Are we going to stop the doctors who have diabetes from being a doctor? We are going to stop the lawyer who have hypertension, which 90% of them have, to stop from practicing law? Of course not, right? So individual, we need to, that is the reason we need to protect them. Sometimes they are being discriminated against their, because of having the illness. Wow, coming from non-medical, for especially non-psychiatrists, the statement like that, it made my day already.
All right. So we know that mental illness has no relation, right, to our career or something like what we study. Okay. So we have one last question to Miss Maddie. All right. There is a statement here which states, I fight for my mental health every day in ways most people don't understand. I am not lazy and I am a warrior. So do you agree with this quote, Miss Maddie?
Well, most definitely, because it resonates deeply with me. I mean, what I had was nerve damage. Nerve damage is not something that you can see. So basically, nobody can really understand what it is you're going through. I went to several hospitals and they asked me, okay, where does it hurt? I'm like, here, at the back here, you can see it. And they're like, no, we can't see anything. I went through MRI. I went through 3 hours of MRI. So it's similar to mental health, because mental health is not something people can see. People will suffer silently because they don't know how to reach out for help. I think the quote was that, what? I'm not lazy, I'm a warrior. It's definitely true. I think the most important thing is how you speak to yourself. How you speak to yourself is very, very important. If you keep categorizing yourself as lazy, that's determining your own behavior. Rather than saying, am I lazy, or why do I feel lazy today? What you should be asking yourself is, why do I feel so tired? Why do I feel demotivated today? Right? Because then you will come up with answers that don't determine your own characteristic. They actually determine, oh, I feel tired because maybe I stayed up last night doing my assignment, or I stayed up last night binging on Netflix, or I was finishing my assignment, or I was overthinking. Those are things that don't really determine your own behavior. They're just characteristics and factors that you can change. So basically, you're not lazy. It's just the situation that you're in makes you feel tired. So how you speak to yourself is very important. I definitely agree with that quote. So I think the most important thing for students, for anybody in general, it's talk to yourself nicely. It's about positive affirmations. It plays a big role in terms of your subconscious. I mean, I love reading this book about the power of your subconscious mind. It's by Joseph Murphy. It's a really good book. It basically teaches you that what you say to yourself, what you believe you can do, influences your capability in general. It's about your belief, your ability to perform, be productive, achieve your dreams, achieve your career. Everything is related to your subconscious mind and what you actually say to yourself. So don't say you're lazy, just say, okay, determine, why do I feel tired? Why am I procrastinating? There must be a reason to how you're acting, right? That's about it.
All right. So with regard to this, do you have any suggestion for the audience on keeping our mental health in check during the pandemic?
Okay, during the pandemic specifically, whether you're working from home, working from office, it's to have a routine. If you're waking up and you don't have a routine, it will be very difficult for you to cope. For example, you're waking up and you're thinking to yourself, what should I do today? And you end up browsing through social media, or you end up binging on Netflix. And at the end of that whole day, your brain will just feel exhausted from that kind of information that you're intake. And you will generally feel unhappy about yourself because you'll be like, I didn't really do anything productive today. I didn't read, I didn't gain any information, I didn't learn anything. Imagine doing that. Imagine binging on Netflix. So imagine playing on social media the whole day and not consuming any knowledge, not growing yourself. We're humans. We're designed to improve and grow. You want to improve yourself and achieve a certain career progress, right? So I think creating a routine is very important. Taking breaks, doing exercises is very important. I mean, this is coming from a person who is a workaholic, obsessed with working, but I'm telling you that taking breaks and doing breathing exercise is very important. Focus on things that you can control. Don't focus on things that you can't control. So really plan. What is it you want to do during this pandemic? What is the new skills you want to learn? There are so many things that you can do, right? Rather than focusing on your assignment, set a time. Okay, I want to do my assignment for 5 hours today. Then after that, I'm going to do something that I find enjoyable. I want to learn how to bake. I think a lot of people, I mean, you see so many people sharing on social media that they're baking. That is actually good. It creates awareness that you should practice on skills. During the pandemic is the perfect time for you to identify your skill and your purpose. I think that's what will truly make an individual happy, right? And that's about it.
All right. So what about your advice to those who have a stigma or don't believe that mental health is real and keep trying to push people with mental health illness to be positive and believe this illness is manageable?
Okay. So I think the main issue with that, with people not believing mental health, is because they haven't really been to the extent where they suffered. So alhamdulillah, they are blessed. They're blessed having good chapters in their life. But again, you have to remember that everyone's life goes up and down. And the moment where you're actually down is when you really learn and grow and find out things about yourself that you could improve. So for those who really don't believe in mental health, I think they should be more self-aware that they're blessed, okay, but some people are not as privileged as that. I mean, I think there's a very famous quote that says that mental health is actually a privilege. Well, definitely, because if you're not raised in an environment that is supportive, then mental health is a privilege for people who do have it. Imagine living or growing up in an environment where it's generally difficult to be positive because you have financial constraints, because you have maybe abusive people around you. Mental health is a privilege because these kind of people don't know what it's like to be happy or to live in a supportive environment. So I think for those who don't believe, they should really educate themselves that not many people have that kind of privilege or support system.
Right, absolutely, Ms. Madi, and thank you for enlightening us. And I totally agree with you. Right, so I think that's the end of the first and second round of the forum session. Now, let's move on to the Q&A session, and we have received an overwhelming question from the participant. So let us start with the first question collected, and this question is for Dr. Hazli. The question is, how could the younger generations could explain their condition, especially in mental wellness, to the older generations? And he or she had several experiences that parents dismiss the issues, not just neglecting the issues, but misinterpret the issues to something religious, which leads to an internal dilemma in the young generation. So he feel like telling them was a mistake.
Okay. Diana, are you okay to educate your parents? Are you willing to educate your parents about mental health? Do you think that when there is a program like this, you think your parent will stay until at the end, until you tell them that they want to hear?
I don't think so.
You don't? Thank you. So I think if you guys have the ability to do that, like Mehdi said, you are very privileged. Have a parents who are open enough to let you talk to them, educate them. We hope that we have that we can change the culture where the parents is more open, right? We can do that. But do you think that is happening now? So maybe you guys, the younger generation, can organize a program where we can educate the religious person, so the religious person can educate your parents. We can do that because that is what we need to do, in fact. And then we're going to, in fact, in the discussion with a few people to have a sharing session in the mosque when we talk to the imam and then all the authority in the mosque. You know why? Because quite a number of them having anxiety symptoms themselves, which they thought because of gangguan or because their iman it's not that strong. But the fact that they have anxiety. The second reason I really want to do this, because a lot of people came to them to ask for advice. If they being educated, if they are being informed, they will be able to do more than a lot of good things. Then they can prevent from do bad thing or harmful things to the one who came to see them. And more important, they themselves have a better quality of life. So to the question, yes, you can do that, but you cannot do alone. We have to do together as well. And then how to find a better way, better strategies, how the parents can listen. And they will get the information. Yep, if you can do directly, by all means, please do so.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Hazli, for the answers. All right, so the next question is for Ms. Nurul Huda. The question is, to what extent can the criminal justice system provide mental health services to mentally ill offenders?
Okay, sorry, I was just writing that down. Okay, thanks. First of all, thanks, Dr. Hazli. While you were talking just now, my mother sent a text. She's actually listening to this as well. So it doesn't apply to all parents. I'm grateful for that. Okay, so to answer this question, to be frank, I don't actually practice criminal law. Okay, so I will not be able to answer accurately on how the criminal justice system works. Okay, could you just let me just look at this point, and then I'll come back to you, Diana, on this.
All right, sure. All right. Okay, so we have the next question to Miss Maddie. All right, Miss Maddie, the question is, how do we console our friends when we aren't equipped with the tools to respond at the moment, but for some reason we can't just let them or the conversation be?
Okay, I think this is something that I'm very, very happy to hear, because we have a lot of people who want to be listeners. You want to support your friends. You want to be that support system for your friends, because you don't want to see them struggle, right? But what do you actually do? Because not many of us are equipped with knowledge in terms of how do you take care of your friend who's facing anxiety? How do you take care of your friend who's really going through a tough time or depression, right? So how do you really comfort them? The first thing is basically to just listen. Like Dr. Hazli mentioned about the mother and the daughter, right? What was the mother doing previously? Constantly giving advice. Oh, you should do this, you should do this. But sometimes that's not really what people want to hear. Sometimes it's just having an ear to lend on, having a shoulder to lean on. That's all that people want. So what you can do is basically just keep your mouth shut and be that friend, be that listener for your friend. I think that's the first thing. The second thing, perhaps what you can do is suggest, do research, educate yourself on things. For example, if your friend is having panic attacks, I think panic attack is something that is very common nowadays, whereby people become so anxious, they get a heartburn. So what happens in that kind of situation? What you can do, if you know that your friend faces panic attacks, you can research things on Google. Everything is accessible on Google and YouTube. There are breathing techniques you can share with your friend. There are so many things that are accessible that you can share with your friends, because a person going through a panic attack won't Google, they won't YouTube, they won't look for things to help themselves, because they're stuck in that bubble. So what you can do as a friend is you can do that research for them. When you identify things, when you educate yourselves, then you'll be able to help everyone around you.
Maddie, can I add one more, Maddie? Thank you for saying that. Yeah, because it's important for us to listen. But if we, after we did the research, we want to help, yeah. But please do this one thing, yeah. You ask permission first. When you want to advise, you want to say some solution or recommendation, please ask the permission from the one that you want to advise. For example, like, is it okay I share with you this? You don't mind, yeah, if I want to say this? I mean, I'm waiting to tell you this. Is it okay? So, because if you do that, you ask the permission, is sign of respect. Second, after that, you say, after you share with them, you say this also. It may work with someone, but it may work with you too, but let's try that. If you haven't tried yet. Yeah, so I'll do that. I'll do that all the time.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so Ms. Nurhuda, are you have you ready about the last question, or should I?
Okay.
All right, so
Yes, Diana. Okay, so actually just have a short answer to this. So so when prisoners are managed in prison, it falls under the Prison Act 1995, and then so under this act, the healthcare services of prisoners is under the responsibility of the Ministry of Health. So usually. From what I've heard previously, they assign they have a medical officer who oversees issues. So it's not they don't have like an in-house psychiatrist, okay, just specifically for mental health issues. However, under the Prisons Act, there are provisions where if a prisoner has mental disorders, they can be transferred to an institution, to a mental hospital, and then there is a process for that. So it's basically if it cannot, it's basically managed at an institution rather than prison.
Very true. And then there is a subspecialty, we call it forensic psychiatrist, which involved in this subgroup of individual, the criminal who have mental illness.
all right, so there's the question to Dr. Hazli. The question is, can ideation of self-harm leads to suicidal ideation? And if so, how far one self-harm before it turns suicidal? And self-harm, thinking of substance, paracetamol, for example, abuse, starving self, and so forth.
If someone attempted suicide, yeah, for example, in any method they use. So assessing suicidal risk is very important. That is what the skill that every psychiatrist, not every psychiatrist, every doctor should be able to have here. Yeah? So we need to see how from the intent, the intention, how serious they want to die, because there are many reasons why people committed suicide or had the suicidal attempt. Yeah? In terms of the intent, and then we have to look from the method they use, how little the method they use, and then what are the behavior that they show for us to assess in terms of the risk. Sometimes, yeah, we can. That's the importance of taking a thorough history. When they committed the act, did they make sure the act can be discovered or not? Did they log, or they put in the social media about all the time they want to do that, and then make sure someone at home so that they can be rescued? That the risk for that one is lower than someone who choose the time when no one around. They did the act the way it was done. Whether it's like overdose with medication is less intent or little compared to jump from the high-rise building, for example. And then what type of medication? And more important, did they know or not when they took the medication will lead to death? Sometimes they know it's not. So if they, even though they take 4 tablets of Panadol, if paracetamol, if they know can kill them, is very high risk. Compare someone who know if they took 20 tablets of Panadol, still okay. That is not that high risk. So there are there are a few factors that we need to consider, because we know for someone who decided to end their life, to committed suicide, there must be a reason. It's not just because frustration with something. Yeah, so that's important for us to really assess the risk. And more important, yeah, we have to remember until at the end, before they really did the act, yeah, they're always 50-50. We call it ambivalence. Where they are not really sure. they always not sure, they're always 50-50. Because of that, we can see that the suicidal attempt is always associated with what? With alcohol, with drug. Well, even before they jump, right? They always have that, because that make the person off balance in terms of their judgment, in terms of their cognitive. So that's why we should not judge, because we do not what happened to them until at the end before they decided to do so. So that's between them and God. Who are we to say? So the idea. So if we have even the idea, why don't talking about it? Get someone that you can trust, share with them. Yeah, because that's important for us to prevent to more serious kind of suicidal behavior. Most people who commit suicide, it's not like they want to die, because they have no reason to live. Why don't all of us give that reason, even just one reason?
Exactly, Dr. Hazli. All right, thank you for the question. Thank you for the answer. Sorry, Dr. Hazli. All right, so the next question is for Miss Mehdi. All right, mentioning about your mental health seems to be a minor problem. So in a way, you will be belittled just because you are anxious or depressed, because others experienced it worse. So we just have to suck it in. So how can we break this stigma?
I think that's something very common when people say, oh, ala, orang tu lagi teruk daripada you apa? Oh, orang tu face this. So people will start comparing that your mental health, what you're going through, is not as severe as what other people is going through. I think it's very difficult to break that kind of stigma, because it's a form of perception. Again, it's how you're nurtured. It's basically how you grew up with, whether you come from a background that is generally very strong. So your mindset is also very strong compared to a person who grew up in a very tough and challenging environment. Then their mindset will also be very different. I think it's very difficult for you to handle that kind of person. But what you can do is be more mindful. Be more mindful that different people go through different experiences, different situations. Again, it's about knowing the chapter of your life. Some people have it better than others in this certain chapter, but then again, it will always go up and down. I think that if I could give one advice, it's about being mindful that everyone goes through a different chapter in their life. You can't compare your problems to other people's problems, because again, it's a matter of severity. For that individual, it might severely affect them. For another individual who's faced it worse, that kind of situation may not even be that severe. So different people have different pain tolerance. Again, it's about pain tolerance as well, right? Because sometimes some people can take more pain than others. So it's very different, and it's about educating yourself. It's about being mindful that we're all different human beings. Not everyone has the same one experience.
All right, thank you, Ms. Mehdi, for the answer. Okay, so the next question will be to Ms. Nurul Huda. All right, Ms. Nurul Huda, what is the difference between our Mental Health Act 2001 and Indian Mental Health Act 2017, which is India decriminalized suicide and introduced the Mental Health Act 2017?
Sorry, can you just repeat the question? I didn't get the last part about the Indian act.
So the question is the difference between our Mental Health Act 2001 and Indian Mental Health Act 2017. Okay, so he stated that India decriminalized suicide and introduced the Mental Health Act 2017.
Okay, so I don't offhand know what the Indian Mental Health Act in India says 2017, but in Malaysia, our Mental Health Act doesn't deal with suicide. Okay, so the punishment, the criminal punishment for suicide is deal with the penal code. So it's two different acts. Okay, so you have the penal code one hand dealing with crimes. Okay, so and you have the Mental Health Act dealing with another set of things. and does not deal with suicide. So when India repealed the law, I believe that it is still in isolation. The criminal aspect of it would be penal in the penal code, and the Mental Health Act would be a different act altogether.
All right. So thank you, Ms. Rinda. Okay, so we have another question to Dr. Hazli. All right. So the question is, he or she said that lately I am easily become irritated on every single thing, especially when I heard my parent and my siblings arguing every time. So when these things happen, usually I will lock myself in my room. And sometimes when it's too much, I would just cry. So does this one of the symptom of the anxiety, or just it is just usual stress?
Okay. Thank you for the question. Finally, a question that I'm anticipating someone to ask. Finally, someone asked. Thank you. So I just want to highlight the difference between mental illness and poor mental health, between stress and depressed. So the problem with us here, the terminology we use does not really clearly define what we are talking about. Some people use the term, but it means something else from someone else. Anxiety, stress, depressed. Some people cannot go to Langkawi pun sebut depressed, but the health could be just stress. The stress is a normal physiological reaction. So it's everybody experience just a different level of stress, but not to the extent of illness. How bad the stress the person experienced? If do not cross the line of illness, they are not an illness. So there is people who are very stressful. Yeah, they could have a poor mental health. They have mental health problem, not necessarily mental illness. That's why I think that's the reason we really need to say what it is when we are talking about mental illness or mental health issues, mental health problems. It's confusing, right? The terminology itself is already confused before we go for a bit deeper. Okay. I give the example. If someone has had a marital issues, marital discord, verbally abuse, had a verbal abuse, physical abuse from usually the husband, and then the person may have symptoms, cannot sleep, and then no appetite, but that could have symptoms for someone who have a poor mental health. They do not fulfill the criteria for depression as yet. In order for someone to have the diagnosis of depression, clinical depression, they have to fulfill criteria. And then this criteria need to seek someone who can certify that they have fulfilled this criteria. But sometimes we do not fulfill that. The person, the wife, could have poor mental health, very stressful, but not having depression yet. But sometimes, after the result of long-standing abuse, they fulfill depressive disorder criteria, and then they need treatment. So, are we saying that if you do not fulfill, we shouldn't treat you, we shouldn't see you, and then you stay at home, wait until you fulfill all the criteria, and then you come and seek help? No. Even someone who have poor mental health, there are something that can be done. There are ways that can reduce the stress, can take away from the toxic environment. That's the reason the treatment for psychological problem, mental health problem, or mental illness is always 4 domains: biology, psychology, social, spiritual. Sebab itu salah duk kata kau pergi jumpa psikiatris, mesti makan ubat sampai bila-bila. That's wrong. That is myth. That is a stigma also. So if you detected early, get the treatment early, probably you don't have to take medication also. So for someone who just have the symptoms just now, do some screening, online screening to see whether we have depression or anxiety. For example, PHQ-9. 9 question is good screening for depression. GAD-7, 7 question is good to see whether we have generalized anxiety disorder. Remember, it's a screening. Then there is a score, and next to the score, usually they set the recommendation what you should do. Follow that. But most of us, after they did all these online screening tools, they did not follow the recommendation. What they do, they repeat screening, they repeat the test, and next week repeat again. And then they like to collect the score, I think. They do not follow the recommendation. So the simple answer to the person, if you think it's affecting your function already as a student, as a person, please do screening, assessment, and then follow. And then if you think that it's time, please go and get assessment from people, from the expert who can do the assessment and diagnosis. Assessment, assessment, assessment.
All right, so thank you, Dr. Hazli. So it must be noted that poor mental health is not the same as depression, right? Or depressive disorder as criteria. So it doesn't mean that the poor mental health should not see the psychiatrist. Okay, so the next...
See psychiatrist also, but also can see clinical psychologist, counselor. Yes. Just go to see someone who can assist. But the one who can do the diagnosis, the assessment, psychiatrist, clinical psychologist. The doctors, the GP can do, but most of the time they have more other things to do, right? So at this moment, the one who do most of the diagnosis are psychiatrists and clinical psychologists.
All right, thank you.
Not psychologists, yeah, clinical psychologists.
Clinical psychologists. All right, thank you, Dr. Hazli. So the next question is to Ms. Maddie. It said that I want to ask how to not be insecure with my surrounding and not more overthinking to my study.
Okay, how to not be insecure and not to overthink with your study. I think that's a characteristic that is very difficult for you to change. But I believe that what you can do is basically to find things that make you inspired. Inspiration, motivation are two very important things that you should really adopt into your life. For example, your social media. If you tell me that when you scroll, what do you really see? Do you see your friends' pages? Or do you see quotes? Do you see speeches, motivational articles? I'm telling you this because what I see is basically I mute people's posts and I actually focus all my attention on motivational articles, videos, entrepreneurship speeches. That's what I really tune into. So I focus on these kind of things. In that way, I'm not really comparing my life to other people. I'm giving you myself as an example because it's very clear for you to see, okay, why don't you try that? And because you will tend to feel insecure because of a few reasons. It's because you're comparing yourself to others. You feel like you're not meeting other people's expectations or you're not meeting your own expectations, right? You probably set really high expectations for yourself. For example, you want to be a perfectionist. You want to get really good grades for your studies, right? You mentioned earlier about how to not overthink about your studies, right? It's because you set too high of an expectation. Given the fact that it is a competitive environment now with the pandemic, with the difficulty of graduates being employed, but it's about focusing on your skills and your purpose. So this is a very good time for me to actually touch on the fact that how to not be insecure, how to not overthink on your studies, focus on what you're good at. So whenever we do, for Plus Vibes, we do a mental resilience program. It's like a training workshop. What we do is the first module is focusing on identifying your strengths and your weaknesses. Why do we focus on this on the first module? Because when you clearly identify what is it that you're good at, then you can build on that skill. You can build on that strength. And you don't focus so much on your weakness, because focusing on your weakness will then make you feel insecure. Oh no, I'm not good at this. But then again, you're not supposed to focus in that area. maybe you're supposed to focus on your strength. For example, give you an example like graphic designers, right? Graphic designers are really good in terms of technicality, designing, these kind of things. But if you ask a graphic designer to talk about law, to talk about other things that they're not good at, do you think it will make them feel insecure? Of course it will, because that's not their skill. So how to not make yourself feel insecure? It's by identifying what you're good at in terms of group assignment. Are you good at presentation or are you good at research? If you know that your team member is good at presentation, then pass the baton to your team member. If you're good at research, focus on the research. So don't focus on your weakness. You can identify it, you can improve it, but don't really focus on your weakness. That way you won't really be insecure. You'll focus on your strength and you'll have more confidence.
All right, thank you, Ms. Maddie, for the answer just now. So we have the last question to Ms. Nurul Huda. Okay, Ms. Nurul Huda, does Cikgu Counselling owed the same duty to safeguard their students' confidentiality like the psychiatrists? And can they be held liable for breaching it?
Okay, thanks, Yana. Thanks for that question. Okay, so just now I did focus a lot on psychiatrists on the MMC guidelines. So each profession has their own regulatory body to deal with ethical issues. Okay, so for example, the MMC deals with doctors, psychiatrists will fall in that category. For dentists, the Malaysian Dental Council, so lawyers, bar council. Okay, so when you talk about those that do not fall under these regulated professions, then you're talking about the public in general. Okay, so in Malaysia, we don't have like privacy laws. Okay, so there's no like Privacy Act. Okay, so we use the common law system, and there is a duty to maintain confidentiality and also privacy. And there are cases where patients have taken action in both breach of confidence and also breach of privacy, and they have successfully been awarded damages. Okay, so I'll just probably share a few cases. So up to until I think 2009, okay, the law on invasion of privacy was not something that was recognized. So it started with this case. It's called Maslinda Ishak in 2009. So what happened in this case was this girl, there was a raid conducted by Jawi, and she was arrested and taken in a truck. Okay, so the defendant, a RELA officer, took photos of this girl while she was urinating, okay, at the truck, okay, without her consent, obviously. So the court, she sued a few defendants, the authorities, the specific person. So the court actually granted her damages for the invasion of privacy because it had mental health. And at the same time, the perpetrator also was criminally convicted as well. So he got 4 months jail for taking those pictures. And for the civil claim, the court actually awarded 100,000. So that was sort of like one of the early cases that recognized invasion of privacy. So after that, there were other cases as well. So there was this case involving a doctor where it was actually in a clinical setting. So the doctor had taken photographs, okay, of the patient. Was a patient who had hemorrhoids. So during the surgery, he had taken photographs of the patient's anus, of the hemorrhoids. Okay, it was meant to be like a before and after photo to be put in the medical records. Okay, but what happened was consent was not taken from the patient, and the court said that there was a breach or invasion of privacy, and the court awarded the patient 25,000 in that case. Okay, so there's another case as well. So it involved someone sued the neighbor because the neighbor had a CCTV pointing to the neighbor's property, so it wasn't happy. So for a court order, and the court actually recognized that there was an invasion of privacy, and there was an injunction they had to remove the CCTV and things like that. So what I wanted to share is leaving aside regulatory ethical guidelines, there is a duty for the public in general not to breach confidentiality or privacy issues. So I hope that answers the question.
All right, thank you, Mr. Huda, for answering the question. So, which remarks the end of the Q&A session. So, thank you for the question given from the participants, and thank you to all three panelists for attending and sharing some of the experiences and knowledge about mental health today. So, we have come to the end of the session. But before we end, I would like to invite again each of the panelists to give their concluding remarks. So, maybe we can have from Dr. Hazli first.
Okay, I would like to thank the organizer, thanks UiTM, thanks all the faculty, college, thanks to Nurul Huda, thanks to Mehdi and the moderator. And I think it's an honor to be here, a privilege to share. And I think this is the beginning when people start to value their mental health. We should not talking about mental illness, hopefully, in the future. We should start talking about mental fitness, mental wellness. That is what I have in my mind. That's what one of the reasons that I early retirement from UKM also, so that I can focus on changing the landscape of psychiatric services in Malaysia. Ambitious, grandiose. Maybe I have bipolar. No, I'm not. I already asked my friend to check on me. I'm not. But this is an opportunity for us to work together. We can do something. It's not under the provisions of Ministry of Health, not a psychiatrist, not clinical psychologist, not mental health professional. It's everyone's. And then we should do this because the clients, the patients, the family members, so many people suffered in silence. And we should stop this. Thank you for the invitation again. Thank you for all of you for staying with us until the end. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Hazli. So, Mr. Huda, can you give a concluding remarks to us?
Okay, thanks, Yana. Thanks, UiTM, for having me. Thank you also for the speakers. I've actually learned so much from the speakers as well. So I feel like I'm also a participant in this webinar. So it's really good that that you all are doing this mental awareness thing. I wish I had something like that back to my student days as well. And it's really healthy. I wish you know in cities like New York, when people speak with psychiatrists or psychologists, it's like a status. Nobody is embarrassed. Everyone feels that it's something normal. So I hope that one day we really we reach something like that. There's no stigma. As far as I think we do small things. We should ask friends, family members, how are you? You don't have to do big things to create awareness. Just start small things. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes if I ask someone, how are you? And then it's as though that person is just waiting for someone to ask. And then they just go on and on and on, and they just want someone to listen. So maybe we should. I know Dr. Hazli and Mehdi, they've been talking about it. You should. This is like one of the ways you should support everyone out there. So let's all do our part, and thank you for this session.
All right, thank you to Mr. Ruhuda. So how about Ms. Maddie? Any last word to us regarding this issue?
Thank you again so much I'm honored to be part of this forum. I also, like Nurul Huda, I learned a lot from both of them with Dr. Hazli as well. I think in terms of last remarks, I have the similar vision with Dr. Hazli. I would love to collaborate with both of the panelists in the future to change the system in terms of mental health, to conduct policy making changes in terms of making mental health as affordable, as accessible as physical health. Like you can get Panadol easily at 7-Eleven. You can get all sorts of physical medication very easily, but can you really get access to mental health that easy? In terms of students, I really want to advise you, I really want to suggest that you don't bottle up your feelings, seek for support, look for any kind of support that you can. Your mental health really does matter, but what matters the most is how you speak to yourself compared to what others say about you. How you speak to yourself, what you believe you can do is the most important thing. So if you feel like you have a dream, a vision, focus on it. You can do anything to achieve it. Don't believe that, oh, I don't feel like I'm capable of doing that. Oh, I don't have the skills to do that. Don't talk like that to yourself. Speak that you can actually do whatever you want to do. Similarly to me, I never in my wildest dreams thought I could be where I am today. If you're asking me when I was in UIT and before, I never thought that I would be running businesses. I never thought I'd develop an application. So do you see how 10 years, now I'm revealing my age, how 10 years can be a big gap in terms of your capability, your performance, your productivity. So don't think about where you are right now as being stuck. Think about what you can achieve, have a vision, have a mindset, have a goal, and work towards it. Doesn't mean that you have to go fast. You know, there's a famous quote, when you're going fast, but you're going nowhere. So everything takes time. And I really want you guys to ride the wave. Life is a journey. You will have your challenges, but don't give up.
All right, thank you, Ms. Maddie, and thank you once again to all three panelists today. So hopefully we can gain some knowledge on mental health today to be applied in our daily life. So I hope that all of us can take the positive things out of the sharing this evening and make it as motivation to be more caring individuals as well as sensitive to what is going on around us. So before I pass this session to Najwa, I would like to share these quotes that I find enriching. So the humanity we all share is more important than the mental illness we may know. So that's all from me as your moderator for today. So to keep the ball rolling, I'll pass the baton to Najwa. Over to you, Najwa.
Thank you for the fruitful and wonderful forum just now. Before we end our event, we would like to acknowledge our panelists for their sharing. Therefore, the organizing committees would like to give away e-certifications as a token of appreciation. The first certificate of appreciation is hereby presented to Dr. Hazli Zakaria. Next, a certificate of appreciation to Ms. Nurul Huda Mansur.
Thank you.
And finally, we presented the certificate of appreciation to Ms. Madhya Fuad.
Thank you.
Thank you to all panelists and moderator. Again, I would like to welcome everyone to turn on their camera for a photography session.
Thank you, Dr. Hazli. Thank you. Thank you, Nurul Huda and Maddie. Okay, on count 1, 2, 3. Okay, another round. 1, 2, 3. Okay, last one, freestyle. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to bring your attention to two announcements. Firstly, the Department of Psychiatry from UITM Puncak Alam Hospital and Faculty of Medicine UITM will be organizing a webinar series entitled Psychiatry Education for Patient and Family, also known as PROSPECT, which is Pendidikan Psychiatry untuk Pesakit dan Keluarga. Kindly click on the link provided at the chat box for further information, including the fees and the dates. For the second announcement, we would like to remind you to fill in the attendance form from the QR code provided at the screen or click on the link at the chat box below. Before we end our program for today, may I request all of you to be prepared for the official song of University Technology Mara, UITM di Hatiku. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the committee, thank you very much for your participation in this program. We hope you enjoy the program and please apologize to us for any inconvenience or technical issue. Thank you and have a good day ahead.
Well done, team. Well done, SCLC, Densa, and